Hi, continue with today's thought. And you know, I had a thought all planned for today, but it looks like I'm going to have to revisit an earlier thought, one that I did about 4 days ago, because I got a lot of comments on this particular. I don't know why uh, all these commenters waited 4 days or whatever, but as always, I always welcome comments whether you agree with me or not. And this particular, well, what happened is this it was about, well, it was about unfair trade, and I used Germany as an example, and I talked about, in other words, that we charge, well, regarding Germany, that we charge for their cars coming into our country a 2.5% tariff. Germany, our cars coming into their country, they charge a 10% tariff plus a 20%. I think it was a 20%. It doesn't matter. The idea, but we'll say a 20% VAT, value added tax, whatever, and it raises the price of our cars going into their country. Now, I guess by mentioning the VAT, what we were talking, well, let me get to the trade part of it later. What I want to clarify is that for some reason, a lot of commenters, they seized on the VAT, and they said, well, everybody charges a VAT, and we yada yada yada. The point is that we got into a little, because I replied to a couple of commenters and about exactly what a VAT is and how it works, and they said that I had it wrong the way it works, and I didn't have it wrong, but I did say it, as I recall. I said that say in our country we don't want a VAT. People have talked about a national sales tax in our country instead of the income tax, which I think would be a great idea if we repeal the 16th Amendment that brought in the income tax. Before that, an income tax was unconstitutional, because otherwise you risk that the income tax will come back and you'll have a VAT, and you'll see it'll be even worse. It'll be like England. So I said that we don't want that a national sales tax would be okay, but a VAT, no, because a VAT would be worse, that it would cost more. And I was wrong on that. I was frankly wrong on that. I just went and did the math, and here's what somebody pointed it out, and that's why I did the math. I actually, in some of the comments, I'm not going to bother, you look them up again and put the links in there. You can go back 4 days. It was about are we being taxed on the tariffs or the trade unfair or something like that. You can find it. Anyways, because I don't want to get too sidetracked on this, but I I linked to explanations through the math and how a VAT actually works. So I'm just going to show you now, because you may be wondering. That's why I'm spending a little time on this, because some of you out there, even in Europe, because some Europeans apparently didn't understand this, but a lot of them did. But a lot of Americans, I'm sure, don't understand a VAT. So a VAT is a value added tax, where instead of, say, a sales tax, where we say somebody wants to make, we'll say, a widget. That's you Europeans, that's what we say. We use a widget when we're talking about just a financial example, and we don't want to name a specific product, because we want to talk about general principles, so we'll say widget. So you have the ABC company, that's another convention that we use, manufactures widgets. So it buys its raw materials to make a widget, and then sells the widget to a wholesaler, who in turn sells the widget to a customer, such as you and me, who are in the market, who can't live without a widget. So what happens when a sales tax, nothing is, the manufacturer pays no tax, no sales tax, when he buys the raw materials. The wholesaler pays no tax when he buys the widget from the manufacturer, and the retailer pays no tax when he buys the widget from the wholesaler, and then finally, sales tax is put on the finished product when it goes to the customer. So we'll assume, say, a 10% a 10% sales tax, just to make it easy. So if you have a product, if the end product, the final widget sells to you and me for $10, a 10% sales tax, we pay $11, right? So that's how a sales tax works. Now the way a VAT works, I'll use VAT, but you know, value added tax. The way that works is a tax is imposed at each stage of production. Okay, so every time when the when the manufacturer buys the raw materials, it pays a tax. When it sells to the wholesaler pays a tax, a sales tax. And finally, when the retailer buys from the wholesaler, pays a tax, and then the consumer buys and pays a tax. So you would think, well, that's going to make the product a lot more expensive than if it were a sales tax. But this is where I was wrong. It's not, and I'm going to go through the math with you to explain what I missed. Because, and I'm only talking about, because I mentioned Germany before, I'm only talking about England. Okay, this is how their system works. I can't. Other countries may be different, in which case maybe the product does cost more. But anyways, let me put this up here. I hope you can see it. But you go here, okay, so you have the manufacturer buys the raw materials for $2 and pays a 10% tax. So he pays $2.20, okay? And $2.20, the 20% tax goes to the government, to His Majesty, right? Then the $2 item, you see, because there's a tax, so now it goes a 10% tax. It becomes, if he sells it to the wholesaler for $5, there's a 10% tax, and so $5, 10% tax is $5.50. But he is allowed to deduct from, he doesn't send 50 cents, he does not send that to the government. This is what I missed. He gets to deduct the tax that he paid earlier, because it's not a resale. He's not reselling that part. He gets to deduct the 20 cents. So he's only sending 30 cents to the government, okay? And then if he sells it to the retailer for $10, and then or whatever, he sells it. Well, the point is that he gets to deduct the 50 cents, you understand? And the 50 cents, he only pays, see, the tax would be $1, a $10 product, so the tax would be $1 and it would be $11, you see, but he gets to deduct this. So the point is, you add this up, 20 cents plus 30 cents plus 50 cents, that equals $1. Now, if they didn't do all that and just had didn't tax here, and just charged a 10% sales tax here, what would that be? It would be $11. So that's where I'm wrong when I said that a VAT would cost more. The bad part, and I don't know, my advice to His Majesty would be just get rid of all the VAT and just go to a sales tax, and just, instead of these people going through all this, the paperwork or whatever, just tack on a 10% at the end, because that's what you're talking about, 10% at every stage of production, but you're subtracting each previous level, and you end up with the same thing, okay? So that's what I got wrong, and that's what I wanted to clarify. I think, if I still have it wrong, then you can, correct me, as I just did now. I'm always happy to be corrected, always happy to go along. You know what I'm going to do? On second thought, I'll see if I can find that link, and I'll put it in the description, the one that describes how it works. They use the example of a candy company that creates a candy called Dolce, and then exactly the same math as I just did here, except I used widgets. So in case I got it wrong, I'm going to link to it, and you can read it and you can understand it. So for our country, I would still think a sales tax would be, instead of an income tax, would be great instead of a VAT, because why make all these people at the different levels go through all that paperwork if the math works out the same at the end? So there we go. There, we're done with that. But now, I hope we're done with that. But if we're not, as I said, give me your comments. Now, what I really want to talk about is they missed the whole point. That wasn't the point. The point is, whatever that VAT is, however it's paid, it's charged to American products coming into the country. So the example I used in Germany was they have a 10% tariff, and I think it was a 20. I don't remember the exact number. We'll just go with the same idea, a 20% VAT. Okay, so you add the two together. In other words, then it's 30. It's a 30% markup of our products when they go in, if somebody wants to buy it in Germany. And what Trump wants to do is he wants to equalize that. What he's saying is, if Germany says, okay, well, you're charging us a tariff of 2%. Okay, we're going to be really great, really nice, and we see we were wrong, and we're going to lower our tariff to 2%, 2.5% also. Our tariffs are equal, all good. And Trump said, no, 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 because there's this VAT that is still raising the price. You have to take that off too. So if it's 30% markup, regardless of whether it's from a tariff or a VAT or some combination of the two, we are going to put a 30% tariff on your products so that the amounts are equal, one for one. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have, or tariff onto others as you would have them tariff onto you, and it's going to be the same. That's all they're saying. And you can lower, if you want to lower, you can put your tariff at 2.5%, same as us, and eliminate any VAT on American products. So it's 2.5 and 2.5, or just keep what you're doing. Or if you want to start a trade war, double your tariff to 20%, and we'll just raise our tariff to 40% if you want to play that game too. So, and if you've been following the news in Germany, they're partly because of these insane green energy policies. They're I forget which German manufacturer, but at least one German car maker is laying off people because their auto industry is suffering. So why they would want to get into this, I don't know. Now that's one irrelevant comment that I got several of regarding VAT. The other one was, well, they said, well, your products suck and your cars can't pass pass a safety inspection. Well, I'll get to that in a second, because I was saying, and nobody wants to buy bleached chickens. So, okay, number one, obviously the American cars can pass the safety inspection because they are being allowed into the country. They're not being kept out. Germany is just putting a pretty high tariff on our cars. And I thought I would just mention, as I did in reply to one commenter, I lived in Germany for a while. Lived is probably an exaggeration. I was there for 3 weeks. I was a musician at the time. I was working with a singer, and we had a possible record deal. So I was working like a German. I was not there as a tourist. And the people who hosted us, it was a husband and wife. The wife was a singer, and that's why how we got the show business connection. We played in a trade show in Aachen, and I won't bore you with the details unless you ask me to. I found it interesting because I don't get to Germany that often. But the point is that the couple, the husband and wife we stayed with, they drove American cars, Fords. In fact, she picked us up. The lifeboat just picked us up at the airport. I forgot what model it was. It was a Ford though, and we stopped off at the Ford dealership in Germany, and so that's Germans do buy American cars, even though they're priced up there. But let's just say that, just for the sake of argument, that American cars suck. Well, if the American cars suck, if they're so terrible, then what's the problem? Get rid of your VAT on our cars, lower your tariffs to match ours, and Germans just won't buy them. That's all. What is the problem? Well, the problem is they know that if they do that, Germans will buy American cars, either because They're not that, they don't suck. They're not that bad. And German, I mean, most of the cars here that people buy are American. But frankly, I mean, full disclosure, I drive a Mazda. When I moved to Tennessee from New York, I had no car in New York. It'd be crazy to own one there. So if you live in Manhattan, don't have to travel outside of the city very much. So I moved to New York, to Tennessee, and I needed a car right away, and I bought one. I just read Consumer Reports and decided price and quality, whatever, that a Mazda 3 would work better for me. I was moving in January, so I figured I'd get a deal on a 2018 Mazda, and I've been pretty happy with the car, but I've had to replace the wheel bearing, one of the wheel bearings, twice, okay? And I've had to replace the battery already once. So this idea of foreign cars being so much better than American cars, you know, I would take that with a grain of salt. But anyways, in fairness though, even if the American cars are inferior to, say, the German cars, there's also price. In other words, if I wanted a really high quality, I'll buy a Rolls Royce. But, you know, Rolls Royce costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a Rolls Royce is not so much better that I want to take out a second mortgage on my house and buy, you know, I balance price and quality, and even if the Mazda 3 is not as good as a Rolls Royce, I'm going to go with a Mazda 3. The point being that in Germany or England or any other country, Japan, even if the American car is not as good, if it's cheaper, if the price is lower than a German model, then you might still buy the American one, even if you don't think the quality is good, because the price is lower, and you figure if there are any repairs that even then you would need. I mean, as I said, I replaced my wheel bearing. First time the warranty covered it. Second time I had to pay for it because the warranty had run out, and I had to pay for a battery. But it's still cheaper than buying a Rolls Royce. So I'm very happy with my Mazda 3, and it performs very well. And the point is, though, that it was very easy to the price. The Mazda 3 was priced competitively with American cars in our country, and that's all we're talking about, is that the American cars should be priced competitively with the domestic European cars in the European Union and Japan and Scandinavia, anywhere else. We don't think that, I just learned that the Indians, very, you know, not how, I'm talking about Indians, not American Indians. They just did a very, very great favor to us. They lowered their 150% tariff on American bourbon to 100%. So thanks a lot, India. So that's not going to fly anymore. So we're going to put a 100% tariff on I guess I don't know, liquor. Do we get liquor from India? I don't even know. But whatever we get, we're going to match what other countries are doing, because that is ridiculous. I mean, even 100 is ridiculous, but 150% tariff on American bourbon, and there's the same kinds of tariffs, not that high, I hope, but in Europe, and that's all we're saying, that those days are over. Everything's going to be exactly the same on both sides, and we're not going to, and it's going to be total cost, not just tariffs. If you have a VAT, well, I mean, it's very easy to pass a law. Just say American products are, if you want to keep the same. In fact, you have that now, if I understand, and you can correct me if I am wrong, but I understand if you are, say, Italian and German, and you're both members of the European Union, that there are no tariffs between your countries. That the whole idea was to create a free trade bloc, and so members of the European Union can can trade freely and pay no tariffs. So, well, we have NATO, right, and it's all these European countries, but then there's the United States, way over across an ocean. Okay, so make us honorary members of the European Union, or just create which is actually what the get off on a little track here. You might find this interesting though, because this is what I don't know if it was Britain, it was somebody, one country that it's a country that's in the EU wants to get out or something. They said, why can't we? Because they love the free trade part, but they don't like the being governed by unelected bureaucrats in Brussels. So they said, there should be a two-tier system, and there should be two options. You can join the EU fully, or just join the free trade part, which would also be a benefit. Let's say that would be a great thing to do with England. Say, okay, we won't tell you what to do from Brussels anymore, but you won't have to pay tariffs on products from the EU, and the EU will not have to pay tariffs on products from Britain. I think that would be perfectly fair. So I guess I'll end on that. I just want to be fair on that, but I just wanted to be clear and fair on the that. I would apologize and say I was wrong, but I wasn't actually, because I said that the VAT, you're taxed at every level, and I was right. But I also said that a VAT would, at the end of the day, cost more. You would be paying more, that it's a hidden tax, and it's pernicious because you don't see all the taxes at these other levels. But as long as you're able, each part of the process is able to deduct the taxes of the level above, that and the numbers work out the same, then there's really no practical difference except for the amount of paperwork and bureaucracy involved. And I guess it employs a lot of bureaucrats, a lot of European bureaucrats, and maybe that's something that the Europeans want. We're going the other way. I'm sure you've heard, if you're watching this from Europe, you must have heard of Elon Musk and Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, and how we're downsizing our government and we're getting rid of bureaucrats. But Europe wants to go the other way. More power to you. Good luck with that, and whatever disagreements we may have, we wish our European good buddies well. And I'll end on that. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. As I think I've said 2 or 3 times in this thought, your comments are welcome in the comment section below the video. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.